And we are live, Mr. David Krayden. Good day, sir.
Hi, it's always nice to be back with my good friend Nico.
And like I was saying right before we started the show, nice outwear. That's a nice, interesting colors you're wearing
This
there.
is my Orvis shirt, okay? This is my Orvis fall shirt. I put this on every fall.
It makes sense. The color. As soon as you said it, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I get it. So let's get right into it. Obviously, every single time you and I speak, we approach the Ostrich Farm. So let's start right there. There's one thing, I know you probably have a lot to say about this, but there's one thing I wanted you to explain, because I'm trying to get an expert, like to get a lawyer to come on the show to talk about the CFIA, if what the RCMP and the CFIA are doing is actually legal. Because from my perspective, it doesn't seem like it. It seems like something's really off there, but I really want to see from a legal perspective. And, you know, I record a lot of content with the guys at the JCCF, but this is not one of their customers, so it's not somebody they work with. So they recommended I speak to a guy by the name of Keith Wilson. I don't know if you know the guy, but
yeah, I do.
So yeah, I reached out to him, so hopefully he gets back to me. Turns out he follows me on X. Never had spoken to him before, so that normally works in your favor when somebody follows you on social media and you reach out to them to have an interview.
You don't know normally who the hell he is, yeah.
Yeah, normally helps out. So we'll see what happens, but can you explain to us what's actually going on right now? Because I saw some videos of Native people saying that land was never given away from their community, so the RCMP has no right to be there. It's very interesting, and I don't know what to believe. So what's going on? What's actually happening there?
This is all very disingenuous with the Native folks there saying that it's their land, because of course, if you go to Richmond, BC right now, a lot of landowners are worried that the local Native band, the Cowichan band, are going to take over their land. So it all adds up, and I'll say this about this aspect of it. It all adds up to a country called Canada that doesn't believe in private property anymore. Whether it's the Native band in Richmond, BC, taking your backyard away, or whether it's the government of Canada taking your farm away in Edgewood, BC, private property means nothing. It's zilch in this country. And we are headed towards either a civil war, I'll say it tonight, either a civil war between landowners and people who are dispossessed, or between people who are overtaxed and people who pay no taxes. I don't know where it's going to go, but it's going to go one way or the other, because this country is fractured. So what's happening in Edgewood, BC right now? Just got off the phone with Katie Bissitney, of course, the chief spokesman, well, the spokesman for the farm. I'm on the phone every day with Katie because I really believe in the story. I think she's one of the most formidable public relations people I've ever met, and she never had to do this as a job, by the way. She was worked on a farm. Suddenly, she had to talk to the world about why this farm should protect the lives of its ostriches. And I think she's done a formidable job of doing that. So where do things stand right now? Well, it's incredible. It's hard to keep, you're right. It's hard to keep up with. But what's happening right now is that the latest video I put out is shocking the hell out of the mainstream media and a lot of new media who wanted to suppress this. Yes, independent new media wanted to suppress this video, and they've done this for 3 weeks. Why? I'm not certain. But what this video shows, and I've shown this now on my own website, Viva Fry has shown it. I showed it on Redacted this afternoon, and it's gone through the roots. Shows the RCMP literally emptying the dumpsters for the CFIA. And you have to get the background, because I put this stuff up and I said, does anybody know anything about this? Please tell me. Is this authentic? Is this fraudulent? I have no idea. Suddenly I got by the dozens people saying, I was there. I saw that being filmed. It's this guy, this who did it. And the and the guy does exist. And I had him on the show today to talk about how he filmed the RCMP literally emptying the blue bins and the dumpsters that the CFI dropped off, not at a landfill site. This is how it gets confusing. They dropped it off at like in the Flintstones. This is a granite site. This is sand. They dropped it off, then they pick it up and they move it. I'm not making this up. They move it to a local business, to their dumpsters. The local business then takes it to the dump. Sorry. I never thought anybody would phone me in the middle of a broadcast. So then, I can't believe this.
You're a popular guy.
So then the business moves it to a landfill site. So I said, "You're kidding." And he said, "No, this is how it happens. They move it. It's like a land transfer site." And the RCMP have taken over this basically a sandfill site in the local area, so they can dump their garbage, then have it removed to a secondary private enterprise site, and then picked up and taken to a legitimate landfill. And I said, "I've never heard of anything like this." And they said, "Yes, and they have a police escort when they move the garbage from the transfer site to the business site." I say, I've never heard of garbage receiving a police escort. This gets weirder and weirder and weirder. And if you look at the visuals, some of it, if you stop the film and do a zoom in, it kind of looks like animal parts of some kind. I don't know if it is or not. But the question I have, and the people I've shared this with over the last 40 hours, they're all saying, who the hell makes that kind of garbage every day? That you've got dumpsters coming forth. This is like a small town. This is not like they've got, I think that they're down to about 45, 50 cops on the site, maybe about 25 CFIA agents. Okay, so at the tops, you've got 65 people on the site now. And they're producing this kind of garbage. I don't buy it. Something is going on behind the scenes. People are talking about the fact they're hearing dart guns going off. And I brought this up today to a lot of the folks who are covering this story, either from afar. There are very few people covering on scene, and I should be one of those. I can tell you that right now, because somebody's not doing the job. But they're all saying to me, well, it's just gossip right now in terms of whether or not they're killing ostriches. And I'm saying, how? And I'm thinking, how stupid are you? You think this is gossip? Because you're not out there at night watching what these people are doing. You're not out there at the landfill site seeing what they're disposing of. So we've got some private guy out there, name of Blake Edwards, who put this stuff on his own social media site. We have to rely on people like that, who it's not their job to report the news. They don't even pretend it's their job to report the news. They're just trying to be helpful. But the media out there is saying 6 o'clock comes around, day's over. Think I'll go home to my tent. And I am so disgusted at what's going on there. I am at the point of saying, I think I have to go out there and see what's actually going on, because I am so frustrated with what's happening with the reporting and the people who say that. What I think here, Nico, is that the CFIA, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency, and the RCMP are acting in collusion with each other. They're getting away with a crime that is horrendous, not just because they're killing ostriches and it's unauthorized to do so. They're defying a Supreme Court order. that said, don't do that. And there's no way you can tell me that nothing is going on there behind the scenes. They have done everything possible to cloak their actions, to make their actions clandestine. And I am just so fed up with, and it sort of brings us to Pierre Poilievre. He was saying
I
that
know.
the RCMP being despicable. Yeah, they are
Yep,
despicable. And
I agree.
not just lucky. No, I'm sorry. Unlucky, lucky. She was one of the worst examples of a RCMP commissioner. But the bozo they've got in charge of that organization now is just as bad. There he is, glad handing it with Mark Carney, his arm around his neck. And I'm ashamed at the Conservative Party candidate for trying to shame Pierre Poilievre, for saying something that's not just honest, but goddamn obvious about the RCMP. It's a federal strike force, and it will strike you if you
Yep.
disagree with the Liberal Party. I better shut up for a while.
No, but you're absolutely right, and that's kind of the connection I wanted to make, because you said something earlier that you think that the information you're sharing, at least the video you were just talking about, is being suppressed, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is, because at this, like, if you look right now, it seems like a lot of conservatives and a lot of liberals obviously are defending the RCMP. So are the NDP. Like just this week, you had the NDP, you had Elizabeth, the crazy witch Elizabeth May, wanting, asking Pierre Poilievre to apologize. The NDP to like they wanted Pierre Poilievre to apologize. They wanted, all the liberals wanted Pierre Poilievre to apologize. There's some conservatives that want Pierre Poilievre to apologize, and we'll address what I think about his actions afterwards. But the point is that the RCMP is being attacked from every angle right now. Like Pierre Poilievre attacked them, and then you have what's going on at the Ostrich Farm. So everywhere you look right now, it doesn't look good for the RCMP. And it wouldn't surprise me that your videos is being suppressed, because it seems that a good portion of both parties, the two main parties in Canada, which are a uniparty, let's be honest here, both agree that you can't talk against the RCMP. And how insane is that? This is the biggest police force that we have in Canada. They're supposed to be completely separate from the government. They're supposed to be their own entity. They're not supposed to report to politicians. And yet, as you said, you see videos of Mark Carney and the new commissioner of the RCMP, buddy. It's almost like they came back from drinking before their video ops that they did last week. It's absolutely insane. But you can clearly see that the RCMP, there's a massive problem with the RCMP. So I'm not surprised that your videos are not getting the attention that they should be getting, or they're being suppressed, because everywhere you look right now, it's not looking good. Like, we just had the sentencing from Tamara Lynch and Chris Barber. It reminded us all what the RCMP did at the end of the convoy. Now we see what they're doing in the BC Ostrich Farm. And because the media was too stupid to let it be, the SNC-Lavalin things are coming back, and we're learning through commissions right now that they never investigated Trudeau. Zero. They never looked. They admitted in commission that, oh, no, we never met with them. We never talked to him. Yet our justice minister, which was the first Native woman, and Trudeau was really proud to brag about that, but the first woman that stood up to Trudeau, she was gone because she didn't want to drop the charges against SNC-Lavalin. So it's at least three different things that are all trending right now, where the RCMP look like they are corrupt as hell. And you won't be able to convince me that they aren't, because they are. Just from the optics alone, bullshit. They are very, very, very corrupt. Now, one of the questions that I had for you, did you talk to Chris Dacey? You know Chris Dacey, right? From Dacey Media?
Yes. Sir,
have you spoken to him? Because if he's been there, like, I think he's still there right now, and he's he's solid in his reporting. Like he's not, he reports what's going on, and he's not worried about reporting what's going on. So maybe you should talk to him, because a lot of the videos I'm seeing are from him, because he's been there for a good 2 weeks. I think we talked last Saturday and he was still there.
Yeah, I know Chris Dacey. He's actually at the moment not talking to me. I have no idea why, but We have not corresponded for a couple of days. I asked him to help me out on a particular matter. He's refused to do that, so I don't know what he's doing. And but I certainly think he's done a good job of what he's put out, and I think he's still there. I have no idea. He hasn't produced much lately, but he's done some great work in Ottawa, and I praise him for that work he's done in Ottawa. And that's all I'm going to say about Chris Dacey.
Yeah, I think he's still there. I think I'm pretty sure he's still there. You know, let me ask you this. The other thing you wanted to talk about is the election. Or you know what? Let's talk about Poilievre since we're on the RCMP topic right now. You know, it had been a long time since I agreed with Poilievre. And what he said during the Northern Perspectives interview, I was like, fuck yeah. Finally, Pierre Poilievre took his balls out of his woman's purse and reattached them. He actually said something I agree with. The RCMP did not do their job. They're despicable. And Justin Trudeau deserves to be in prison, even though the SNC-Lavalin criminal court was dismissed a couple of weeks ago. So for once, I completely agreed with what Pierre Poilievre said. But 2 days ago, when we were talking about it on the political orphans, I started laughing and I told my co-host, I'm like, I bet to you right now that he's going to backtrack it. It's getting too much attention. It's getting too much backlash, and he can't deal with backlash. He doesn't like backlash. So I was laughing on Monday. What are we yet? Wednesday. Yeah. So on Monday I was laughing. I'm like, ha ha ha. You'll see how long before he backtracks his comments. And that's exactly what he did yesterday. He kind of softballed it. Oh, I wasn't talking about this commissioner. I was talking about the old commissioner. And I stand with the men and women of the RCMP. But let's be honest here. You can't just have one person corrupt in that whole police force. There's many whistleblowers that's come out over the years saying they never investigate SNC-Lavalin. I had some proof that there was corruption between Trudeau and SNC-Lavalin. There's something wrong that happened with him and the justice minister. They didn't want to hear it. My boss censored me. So a lot of it seems, at least by what the whistleblowers are saying, that a lot of the levels at the RCMP are corrupt. So to say that they were despicable, he was right. But then he backtracked it to just, the old commissioner, because there was too much backlash. What do you think about that?
It's just Sandra Lucky, eh? That's the only problem here? No. I was anticipating it, Nico. I was anticipating it when the very hour I was sitting here saying, okay, we're 2 hours away from Pierre Poilievre saying, didn't mean it, didn't really mean it. It's not the RCMP upper echelon. It's just Sandra Lucky, because she was the fall girl during that whole administration. And it's not the current commissioner. Do you realize the so-called, if I can say this word, the Fent, okay, I'll say Fent, the Fent czar in Canada is a former deputy commissioner of the RCMP. Have you heard a word out of this clown since he was appointed? No, because it was a political appointment, just like everything else he's received in his God-forsaken life. It's another political appointment, and he has nothing to say. Where the hell is the RCMP at the Vancouver border? I'm talking about the ports. And this has been well reported by people like Sam Cooper, fantastic investigative journalist. The Chinese are sending volumes and volumes of F drug and meth into Vancouver. Nobody's looking at it. Nobody is challenging this, because we have a cozy relationship with China. The RCMP looks the other way. They are, and we just sent liquid meth to New Zealand.
Yeah.
That killed a young man because he thought it was a beer from Canada. The RCMP did nothing about that. Why? Well, they're up in Edgewood, BC, looking after these ostrich farmers, terrorizing the ostrich farmers. That's what the RCMP is all about today. And if we hire 1,000 more of these clowns, what do you think they're going to be doing? Not going after drug dealers, not going after rapists, not going after murderers, but the political enemies of the Mark Carney regime. So every time I hear this bullshit about, oh, yeah, Mark Carney's going to hire more cops to do what? Go after you and I? That's exactly what they're going to do. I'm sorry, it's like the Third Reich, and I can probably say that without getting demonetized. The Third Reich hiring more people for the Geheimstaatspolizei and more people for the SS. Yeah, we had a great police state there. Lots of people hired to buttress the state's regime. And that's exactly what Mark Carney wants to hire more cops for, to go after criminals, just like his gun law. This is an outrage. His gun law is not going to target a single criminal in Toronto or Montreal, where you're from, or Vancouver. It's going to go after who? Farmers like the people I'm dealing with every day. And you and I, yeah. It's going to go after law-abiding gun owners who happen to own a firearm that the Liberal government thinks is somehow sinister. And most of these guns, and the Conservative opposition has done a goddamn good job of this. Because and other areas they haven't, but they really have focused on how the Liberals are stealing guns again from farmers and law-abiding citizens of Canada. And they know this, and that clown who's the public safety minister, that Anang Grisay, whatever the hell his name is, had no right to be occupying a seat in cabinet, and should not even be occupying a seat in the House of Commons. This man is a circus clown, and he is pushing forth an agenda that wants to steal guns from law-abiding citizens. And they're focusing on farmers, just like they're focusing on Edgewood BC right now, to terrorize people who think they have the right to their private property. They don't in Canada anymore. This country, as I said earlier, I was on Redacted earlier with my good friends Clayton and Natalie, and I said, you're right, Clayton, this country is cooked. That's where we're going.
The public minister you're talking, the public safety minister you're talking, Gary Apu. Like, I call him Apu because I refuse to pronounce his last name, but that's who you're talking about. So, and this is the same guy that this is the same guy that's telling us that Pierre Poilievre needs to apologize for what he said about the RCMP, because it's unforgivable to be questioning the RCMP. That's how insane we are. And I agree with you. The 1,000 people that they want to hire has nothing to do with protecting the border. It's about having the task force to be going after people that break C2, C8, C9, and Bill C63. They need people to implement those bills if they pass, and that's what they're doing. They're just preparing the field so that they can start going after people like you and I from the get-go.
I mean, Nico, if you look at these clowns who are guarding the ranch in Edgewood, BC, they're a bunch of overweight idiots. And this is what the RCMP has become. It used to be one of the greatest police forces in the world, where you actually had to you had to have physical standards. You had to have mental standards. I don't know what these people are coming from anymore. They're barely able to articulate a sentence anymore, except one they read from a Liberal Party talking point. And half of them have these huge pot bellies. Like these are not RCMP officers like I remember from the past, or that were immortalized in song, in movie, in theater, in film. No, not anymore. These people are just a bunch of bureaucrats in uniform. That's all they become, much like our Canadian Armed Forces, which has become a joke because these people can grow their hair to whatever length they want. They can wear earrings. They can do whatever the hell they want. They don't really have to be uniform anymore. And that's all being a part of the military is about. And we don't have what I'm saying, because I wrote a column today. I was asked to do this column about what's happening in British Columbia right now, for instance, with the fact we've lost our property rights. The Supreme Court of British Columbia has said we don't have property rights. First Nations so-called entitlements trump them all. So if you're living in Richmond, BC right now, which is one of the highest real estate areas in the country, it's very close to the west literal west coast of Canada, very close to the beach on the Pacific Ocean. You could lose your property because the Cowichan ban says, well, we used to sit there 150 years ago. You had time to move on. And the Supreme Court of BC agreed with that. And I'm saying, they've taken even David Eby, the idiot premier of BC, the
Was against it.
socialist moron. Even he said, this might not work because people might leave BC if this law is left intact. People might say, I don't want to live in BC because somebody might come along someday and say, hey, we're taking your land away. Like it or lump it. The Supreme Court of Canada will enforce this law. Why? Because they're a bunch of woke people who were appointed by liberals. And when Stephen Harper was prime minister, I'll go back then. When Stephen Harper was prime minister, he refused to appoint conservative judges because I was at the Hill at the time. And I was saying, what the hell are you people thinking of? How do you think we're going to control the future of this country or influence the future of this country if you don't put Supreme Court justices who agree with you? Didn't happen. So we had liberals appointed to the Supreme Court throughout the Harper years. We've had liberals appointed throughout the Trudeau years. That Supreme Court is so damn woke.
Yep.
It's beyond belief. And of course they're going to go with, you know what reconciliation means, by the way, Nico? It means your land is not your own. That's what reconciliation means. It has nothing to do. I woke up with reconciliation when I was 5 years old. I grew up with Native people. I grew up in Vancouver Island with kids who belonged to the Kwakiutl, the Haida tribes in BC. We never saw ourselves as different. We saw ourselves as kids growing up together in Canada, and we're all equal. Somehow we've lost our way in this country. We have a caste system in Canada, which is as bad as they had in India, and which Mahatma Gandhi fought because it separated people on the basis of who they were at birth. Yep. This is what we have in Canada. We don't have a Canada anymore that's based on who you are under the law. Doesn't matter if you're white or black or yellow or whatever your skin color, your ethnicity. I don't give a damn. You're equal under the law. Nobody should be better than somebody else because you were born someplace else or because you were born as some special ethnicity. We have lost that context in this country. We have lost the understanding of what freedom is and what individual liberty is. It's gone. We are the most racist country on the face of the earth because we divide everybody in this country on the basis of race, ethnicity, and now we're getting into sexuality. Everybody's got their special rights. And I'm sorry, it's a recipe for disaster, catastrophe. And as I wrote today, and I'll give myself a little plug for this, read my human events column about this. We're headed for civil war if this continues. Because I tell you, I'm not going to put up with this. And a lot of people are going to say, to hell with this reconciliation if it means I don't own my property anymore. But how long, Nico, have we put up with these land acknowledgements? This is what drives me the craziest. You go to a Rotary Club meeting. I gave up my local Rotary Club meetings because every time I sat there, and we have to acknowledge we're sitting on the unceded lands of, and I said, bullshit. They were ceded. We won the goddamn war. It's over. Let's stop talking about this. King Charles III comes to our opening of Parliament, reads from the Speech of the Throne, and he says the same thing. Like the government of Canada, like the Parliament of Canada is sitting on unceded land. What does that mean? Okay, so the government of Canada is somehow a organized crime organization sitting on occupied lands. But people are so stupid in this country. They don't put that together anymore. Like it doesn't make any sense. Either we're a country or we're not. And the way we're going right now, Nico, we're not a country anymore. We are nothing more than a national joke.
You know, David, I'm hearing you talk, and it's something that I talk about all the time, and I can only draw the conclusion that it's done on purpose. You know, there's somebody on the show, one of the comments on one of my shows the other day, I'm paraphrasing, but he said that it can't be incompetence because it's too organized. It's too well done. Like, if you actually look at it, it is done on purpose. I don't underestimate my enemies. I look at what they're doing and they're smart. They're not stupid. So the only conclusion that I can draw from everything that I'm seeing is they are pinning us against each other. Because at the end of the day, that's what they want. The real fight is not left or right. The real fight is top bottom. It's the people at the top that wants... The Prince from Machiavelli that was written in Italy 400-500 years ago explained this very well. In order to govern, you need to separate. Point them at as their enemies, and they're going to be too busy fighting each other to notice what you're doing. Like, I look at Google Trend every single day, multiple times a day, and you know what's trending right now? The Blue Jays. You know what's trending right now? Soccer games. You know what's trending right now? Dumb fucking entertainment. This is what people are looking at. While we're having our rights taken from us, when we're having a government that is so tyrannical that they're trying to pass censorship bill and surveillance bill like Bill C2, C8, C9, C63, and nobody's doing anything. Like, the conservatives are not that bothered by it. The leader doesn't approach those subjects with a 10-foot pole. Then, as you said, you see what's going on in Richmond. You have law-abiding citizens that bought property. They lost it. It's not going to be theirs anymore. You have the RCMP taking over a farm with the CFIA in British Columbia. Everywhere you have Cape Breton, they're doing a gun grab over there. So everywhere you look, the government is attacking our freedoms. And it seems like the average Canadian couldn't give two shits. Or the ones that do are getting irate, just like what you're saying right now. And this is a question I have for you, because I don't see another outcome, unfortunately, and I think this is done on purpose, where they want a civil war. They want people to start being violent, because that means they can bring martial law into place. That means they can put an emergency act in place like they did during COVID and how they ended the Freedom Convoy. But now, imagine that they would be able to do that with Bill C8, C9, Bill C2, C8, C9, and C63 in place. Imagine if they had that power before the convoy. The convoy would have never happened. They would have killed it way before. Just when it started, they would have crushed it. They would have crushed the dissent. So do you think that is what they're planning? Because I don't see any other outcome outside of people taking to the street and unfortunately becoming violent. And unfortunately, I don't think that's a war we can win. As much as I'll be the first one to say that this government that we have, the way that our government is, and I'm not just talking liberals here, I'm talking our government as a whole, is so corrupt. It's run by bureaucrats that are not elected and not even from this fucking country. They're globalists that are controlling our country. And what other solution do we have outside of taking to the streets and possibly becoming violent? I don't see a lot of different outcomes than that one.
Well, ironically, if you could put it that way, we're not going to have a civil war. And I'm not advocating one either, by the way.
Thank you for saying this. I'm not saying we should. I'm not saying we should, because I don't think we can win that one. We don't have enough weapons. Either way, we don't.
That's where I'm going next. We can't have a civil war because the government's taken all of our firearms away. We have nothing to fight back with. And if you look at 1861 in the South, all of those states that seceded from the Union had well-armed militias.
Mhm.
And everybody in the South was well armed individually because they had no gun laws. Everybody had guns. And so there was the wherewithal to push back on the federal government. We don't have that option anymore. So anyone who was advocating civil war is advocating national suicide, or at least sectional suicide. So I'm certainly not advocating that, and I'm not sure we would arise from that with anything better than we have right now. But the point I'm making is that the government has pushed us into this funnel right now, where there's no way out. And I said this earlier, Nico, on my own broadcast, and I said this on Redacted earlier. If we don't, the only hope this country has right now is a federal election within the next couple of months. Barring that, it's the separation of Alberta, if that doesn't happen. But in the short term, if we don't have a new government within the next 3 to 4 months, we're going to have at least 4 pieces of surveillance censorship legislation. A lot of people, and I've been talking about this quite extensively over the last couple of months, including with the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms, John Carpay, who's a regular on my show. Have nothing but time and respect for John, one of
You and
the
me both.
great lawyers out there who's fighting for freedom. A lot of lawyers don't fight for freedom; they fight for themselves. John fights for freedom, and he has pointed out that, you know, we've got so much coming at us. It's like a juggernaut. It's like a
Yep.
tidal wave. And the last piece of legislation, they haven't even introduced it yet. And most people, I shared this with you a month or so ago. Sean Fraser, when Parliament came back in September, he talked about what his plans were. Nobody reported this at all. But in that news conference, he said, "Oh yeah, we've got these bills coming, and by the way, before the session's out in the fall, we're going to bring back Bill C-36, the Online Harms Act." So he's promised to do that. That's the worst of these bills. We've got Bill C2, we've got Bill C8, we've
You
got Bill C.
you mean
They're
63,
all,
right? Bill
yeah. This is
C-63?
this is the old Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act. They're going to rename it the Online Safety Act. I've got that
Of
through pretty
course.
good sources. They're not going to call it the Online Harms Act because that's already been tainted by people like you and I and other people who said, sounds like a pretty bad idea. So they're going to call it the Online Safety Act, which is what they did in the UK. And you have to remember, Mark Carney patterns himself after
Oh yeah.
everything they do in the UK, including Keir Starmer, who he just loves. And I think Keir Starmer is the biggest clown in the political world right now, next to Mark Carney. But that's who he patterns himself on. They're going to change the name of the bill. They're going to introduce it, I think, about mid-November, about a month from now. And they're going to call it the Online Safety Act. And they're going to say it's got nothing to do with censorship at all. It's just like Trudeau said, it's about protecting children and women who have been affected by revenge porn, replicating all the laws we already have in place. But the new laws that this bill has are going to be so bad, we're going to turn Canada into George Orwell's 1984 in a literal way. And you and I are going to be having a knock on our door at 2:20 in the night. And you think, oh, it can't happen, David. Can't happen, Nico. Happens all the time in Great Britain. And you've seen the video. I've seen the video. This poor woman gets a knock on the door at literally 2:20 in the morning from some local cop coming to her door, not because she's committing a crime or somebody's assaulting her or somebody's breaking and entering. You got something on your Facebook, ma'am, we don't quite like. We'd like you to take it down. And she says, "Am I being charged with anything?" He says, "Well, not right yet, but we might be charging you. We have to see." And she says, "Well, until you're prepared to charge me, get the fuck off of my doorstep." So, but that's what the UK has come to, and that's what this country has come to. We're literally steps away from becoming an enclave of dictatorial, tyrannical, authoritarian crap that is right out of George Orwell. And I remind you, George Orwell called himself a socialist. By the end of his life, I think he was wavering, but he was a damn honest socialist who said, I don't want to be a socialist if it means the government's going to be in my business 24 hours, 7 days a week. And that's exactly what Mark Carney's about. I don't think Mark Carney's a socialist. I think he's a fascist. I think he wants to keep his fingers in your business constantly, telling you what to do.
He wants control. That's all he wants. He wants a one world government where they can control everything, and he wants a seat at the table. That's all he wants. But did you see what they did in the UK? The Metropolitan Police are refusing to enact those dumb hate crimes, like those non-violent hate crimes. They're just like, yeah, we're not going to respond to them anymore. They're just our police force is too busy, so they're backtracking the mandate that they were given by Starmer. So it looks like that could stop from the Metropolitan Police. And you know, there's another thing that happened last week. Did you hear? Or no, actually, I think it was yesterday. It was yesterday or Monday that what's his name, Gary Apu there, or Justice, or Public Safety Minister. That's how I'm calling it. I refuse to say his last name.
Angus Hangary. I think it's
we'll call him Apu. So Apu is saying that he's taking away Bill C2. Did you hear that? That he's bringing it back. He's taking it off the table to go rewrite it. So not only did they create Bill C12 that removed 90% of the bad stuff, there was still a couple of things that I didn't like in Bill C12. But now they're even removing Bill C2 from the table and might be rewriting it completely. So do you think that we're seeing a time in Canada where people are starting to wake up to what's happening? Because it was said that 300 different civil organizations, like the Justice Center, for example, was one of them, contacted the government about Bill C2 to say, yeah, this can't pass. This is tyrannical. This is a surveillance bill. We can't have this in Canada. We're supposed to be a free country. So do you think that the people are actually waking up? Do you think that police officers, like what's happening in the UK now, are starting to push back saying, I'm not going to do this anymore? Because at the end of the day, that's all we need, right? If you look at history, you just need a few people to start voicing their opinion, and especially police forces. Like if police force stops enforcing the law, the government can't do shit, right? They need their minions to follow. So do you think that's a possibility? Do you think that we can see a time where enough police officers, maybe RCMP officers as well, not just municipal police, could say no more? Because I've seen it when it comes to the RCMP in Alberta said they wouldn't enforce the gun ban if it ever happened in Alberta. There's a few police force, like I think it was the Toronto police I'm pretty sure it was the Toronto police that said the same thing, that we're not going to enforce. If you bring the gun ban here, we're not wasting our time on this. We have much better things to do than to go after law-abiding citizens. So do you think that it's still possible that enough people wake up and change what's happening? Because it seems to be happening with Bill C2. Now, is it all a plan? And that was the plan all along. They just wanted to see how far they could get, like what they could get away with, knowing they would probably get some pushback. And they're just like, oh, okay, no, it's okay. We're gonna back down. You're not ready for this yet.
I think it's possible, Nico, but I think it's almost generational. I mean, I'm 50. You're what, 35, 30?
I'm 30. Jesus, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm 43.
35?
But I appreciate 43.
You're
thank
43.
You, though.
Okay.
So, I appreciate that.
We're similar, okay? Yeah. Because we both remember a Canada that was very different. I don't think a lot of people growing up right now have any idea of what freedom really means. And it
Yeah.
means the absence of the state in your life. It means the absence of somebody telling you what to think, what to do, what to read, what to watch. And so many kids today have been raised with the nanny state through schools. And unfortunately, too many times through parents who mirror that kind of thinking, that they know nothing else. And this is the hope of authoritarian, totalitarian regimes, is the future with kids. If you look at the Soviet Union, they raised the kids to believe in pure
Yep.
communism. The Hitler Youth were there to perpetuate the Nazi state. And
1984, right? George Orwell
and
talks about that, where their kids go after their parents. They're
the
surveilling their parents to see what they're doing in their house. So,
and because the parents can remember the way things used to be, where nobody was around watching them all the time.
yeah.
And believe me, if you've ever lost your freedom, the one thing you want back is that I just want to be left alone. Get the state off my shoulder. Stop people watching me, telling me what to do. I want something called freedom. That's what America was all about at one time. And I think they're trying to rediscover that. And Canada, to some degree, was all about that. But what is bad about Canada, Nico, is that we were always about good government and efficient governance and having a state that worked on our behalf and we could trust the government. And the United States was completely the opposite. They never trusted the government. They put mechanisms in their constitution, in their government, so that they could overrule the government. They could say, no, we don't want you anymore, because the state is not preeminent. The people are. The individual is preeminent. Canada has always been the other way around. We've inherited this terrible idea that the government is first and we serve the government, and we should expect the government to look after us. The government will never look after you. They're looking after us really well right now, aren't they? I mean, they're leading us down a road to perdition, to hell. So I don't know if we can turn this around, because I think we can do that if young people, and I don't sound like I'm some old fogey here who's preaching it, the young folks who don't appreciate, but if we can show people what freedom really is, it's a natural inclination. Ayn Rand said that you don't have to preach freedom. People naturally want it. People naturally are attracted to freedom, because that's how that's all about humanity. But that's why the Carney government is coming down with all of these anti-free speech devices that are going to make it impossible to talk about what we're doing right now, because they're afraid of that. They're afraid of the fact that people are turning more and more to social media, more and more to alternative media than they are to the CBC and CTV. I remember Justin Trudeau saying this. He used to love to talk about this, because that's how he grew up, of course, under the tutelage of his father, Pierre Trudeau. He said, I remember the days when we used to have just 3 networks. I remember the days when we had the dailies. We didn't have this bothersome social media. Everybody agreed on the basic things. Irony of that is everybody agreed on basic things in those days that Justin Trudeau didn't agree with. But you introduce that today, it's a recipe for authoritarian, totalitarian dictatorship. And I don't know if we can take this back in time. And this is why I'm saying, unless we have new elections in the next couple of months, I don't know how we're going to get past these surveillance censorship laws, because the NDP is 100% behind censorship. The Bloc is worse than the NDP. Like I despise the Bloc because they want to go further than the Liberal Party in censorship. I can't stand these blockheads, bastards anyway, sitting in the House of Commons collecting money when they want to separate from the country. Get the hell out of Ottawa. If you want to separate, don't sit in the House of Commons. But but they want worse measures against free speech than the Liberal Party. And the NDP are as bad as that. I don't know. I remember the NDP when they used to believe in free speech. I remember so many receptions I used to go to when I worked on Parliament Hill, and sooner or later I would sidle up to Ed Broadbent, and he was long gone in terms of an MP in those days, but he was active in political groups, and I was always wanted to listen to what he said. And he told me one night, he said, I really admire the Reform Party because it's so democratic. He says, I wish the NDP had have adopted some of its principles in terms of democratic control of the party by the people who are members and the membership. And he says, I think they really are on the right track with that. You would never hear that from an NDP leader. And Ed Broadbent led that party for many, many years, was a member, I think, from Oshawa for many, many years. You'd never hear that today. You would never hear the NDP stand up for free speech anymore.
No.
Because it's not a free speech party. It's not even a liberal party. It's not even a vaguely socialist party. It is a party that believes in dictatorship. And and I used to think we could get some sort of left-right coalition going in this country to stop this attack on free speech. I'm not sure we can do it anymore. I'm not sure there's anything left. And I think the best thing that can happen right now is to get the Mark Carney government out of there. He's delusional enough to think that he's going to win a majority government. It's all you hear in Ottawa right now. Mark Carney thinks he's going to win a majority government. So now he's saying he's winking again. You know how he winks every time? Screw dead giveaway. The guy is a con man and a fraud. But every time he talks about, no, we're not going to have an election right now, he starts to winking at the camera like, yeah, I want an election because I think I'm going to win a majority government. I hope he's that delusional, because he's going to get his ass kicked big time the next time we have an election. And it might not be exactly what I hope is the result. But unless we get rid of the Mark Carney government very soon, we are going to be saddled with horrendous dictatorial censorship laws that are going to be very hard to get rid of, no matter who the next government is. It's going to be very hard to turn the tide back.
I want to take just a quick comment. David B, thanks for the donation. Always appreciated. DEB and Bill C7. Can you clarify which Bill C7 you're talking about? Because I have it here, and I'm not sure. Is it the MAID one you're talking about, or are you talking about something on the BC level? Because I'm not aware of the Bill C7 on the BC level, so I don't know. So if you want to clarify that. But to go back to what you were saying, I don't, like I said earlier, and I say this all the time, I don't underestimate the people I don't like because I don't like them. I tend to really pay attention to what they're doing. And I honestly believe that if there is another election, which I don't see it happening, but let's say that there is on November 4th, let's say that there's a vote of non-confidence, well, refusing the new budget causes a vote of non-confidence, dissolution of parliament, and then we have another election. I don't see them not cheating their way into having a majority and not having that done on purpose. Just look at what happened. Are you following what's happening in Terrebonne? The riding, it's super close to Montreal, it's super close to where I am right now. But during the election, they won. So the Bloc Québécois person won by one vote, one single vote out of 61,000 people. You're on mute, by the way. You muted yourself, David. You're muted. They won by one single vote. Then it was flip over to the Liberal by one single vote, and they are in court right now. And the actual attorney for the Liberal Party is saying that it's unreasonable to ask for another election, even though that it's been proven that Canada Post made a mistake on their envelope. They didn't put the right postal code on their official documents that they sent people to vote by anticipation. And there's many cases of people saying, I voted for the bloc. My vote never counted. And it came out last week that there are some workers at Canada Post that knew about the problem prior to the election, but chose to do nothing about it. So we literally have election fraud that happened during the last election. It's in court right now, and people are just, oh, it's just another day in Canada. But that's not democracy, is it? So I'm curious to see if there will be another election. I don't see it, but I wouldn't be surprised that you're right, that Carney is cocky enough to cheat his way. Well, it's not what you said. You said he's probably cocky enough that he thinks he can win a majority. I don't think he can win a majority, but he will find a way to do it illegally. This is my view. It's bullshit. I don't think Pierre Poilievre wants to be in power. First and foremost, I don't think he wants to be a leader. He is controlled opposition. I think that if there's another election, it's not going to go well. I hope I'm right. I really, really hope that I'm wrong. Sorry, I hope I'm wrong. Not that I'm right. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm absolutely wrong. But I don't see it happening. I don't see the Liberals losing what they have. They will make it worse. Because I think right now they're, 4 seats from a majority? They need the NDP. Like, they need either the NDP or the Bloc to pass any type of legislation. But I think they're 4 away, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, did you find it interesting that Pierre Poilievre made those remarks about the RCMP on a podcast after he went through the entire election campaign refusing to go on any podcast? And that particular podcast has been very controversial in things it's said about other conservative podcasts. I'll leave it at that because I don't want to get into entanglements over that. That's not the podcast I would have Pierre Poilievre go on. And yes, I've invited him on mine, and I've known Pierre Poilievre for 21 years. I've always been rebuffed because they think I'm a little too right-wing, a little too extreme, a little too this or that. But I can think of other podcasts that would have perhaps been better for him. But he chose to go on that particular podcast, and a podcast to say those words. I'm very suspicious about what was going on there, and what was happening, why he said those words at that particular time, because once again, he's backtracking right now with the RCMP. He's saying it's all about that terrible Lucky Commissioner Lucky. It had nothing to do with that wonderful commissioner we have now. And yeah, you can trust the RCMP. What's happening at the same time he's saying that, Nico? What I've been talking about tonight and what's going on in Edgewood, BC, where the RCMP are literally emptying the dumpsters for the CFIA. And the RCMP is looking the other way at the huge drug problem in Vancouver. They look the other way. So is there a problem with the RCMP? You goddamn bet there is. And it's not just with the upper echelons. It goes deeper than that. And I don't care if somebody calls me up and says, you don't respect the police. Listen, I was a Canadian Armed Forces member for 13 years. I loved the cops. I worked with the cops. But they were honest cops. And I don't know what the hell has happened to the RCMP. But it's not just a few bad apples at the top. And this is why it's happening right now in Edgewood, BC, where these people are obviously off the rails. So Pierre Poilievre set himself up for this, as he often does. He set himself up for a fall. And his own party right now is saying, Pierre, please backtrack on this. Please say you love the RCMP. Please say there's no problem there. And if he does say that, my God, there's going to be literally hundreds of thousands of Conservative Party members who are going to say, oh no, here we go again.
You know, this is a question for you because you understand our political system more than I do. But when Justin Trudeau stepped down as prime minister, he gave time for a race of the Liberal leadership, right? He made sure they had enough time in order to choose somebody else, because obviously they didn't elect Mark Carney, he was chosen, but to choose somebody else, and then they had a real election. I want to see Pierre Poilievre gone. I want to see him gone. He is not a conservative. There's one that really impresses me, and I don't know her. I'm just starting to hear about her, but it's Leslyn Lewis, or Dr. Lewis, however you want to call her. And I learned not that long ago that she actually ran for the leadership of the Conservative Party, like at the same time as Pierre Poilievre. Do you think that there's a way, if there were another, because right now I'm starting to think that maybe Pierre Poilievre is not going to do too well in January with his leadership review if he doesn't backtrack his comments with his own MPs. But if he backtracks it, his voting, the people that voted for him won't want to vote for him anymore. So what options do they have? Do you think, in a yes or no type of answer, because we're out of time, do you think there's a possibility, if there is an election, that Pierre Poilievre is no longer the leader of the Conservative Party?
I think it's highly unlikely because they're going to give him a second chance. Leslyn Lewis.
You mean a third chance? A fourth, a fifth, a sixth?
I think they'll give him a second chance. I think it's up to Pierre Poilievre whether he squanders that chance or not. Leslyn Lewis ran against Pierre Poilievre in the last leadership race, and she was actually my first choice. But I didn't think she had a hope in hell. I didn't think she had a hope in hell of winning, because she was a black woman in a conservative party that generally doesn't appoint black women as their leaders. But I thought she was the best choice overall. And my second choice was Pierre Poilievre, and I thought he had come around to thinking like a real conservative at that point. But I've been bitterly disappointed at times with Pierre over the last couple of years, and but I think he'll survive the leadership vote. Yeah, and I think they'll go into the next election with him. It's highly unlikely they're going to jettison Pierre Poilievre at this point, because he almost made it the last time. Let's put it that way. Yeah, and he might make it the next time, but it's not going to be anything to do with ideology. It's going to be whether or not he's got enough points left to win. And I think conceivably he could still do it, but we'll see what Pierre Poilievre is really made of when he becomes prime minister. It could be even worse than what he's demonstrated as opposition leader. So
on that note, David, thank you for your time. Guys, if you've enjoyed this show, make sure to like, make sure to restream if you're on X. If you're on the YouTube channel, make sure to like, make sure to subscribe to David's platform, subscribe to mine as well. Make sure to hit that little bell so that you know when we go live. And on that note, we will see you next Wednesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And David, once again, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, as always. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, Nico. I'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.